France is on fire. Protests led to some kind of just the images look like a building set on fire. So we got 2 videos to watch with that, but things are happening all over the world, and that is why we got to review the world together. Let's get into it. Let's get right into it.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. And I did want to bring you this live image that we just have coming into our newsroom right here. We're working to get more information, but this is all related to the protests that are there in France over the government. And as you can see, folks are wearing helmets and masks. A lot of those are reporters, but there's also a lot of protesters and demonstrators that are out there right now trying to figure out what this is. It looks like it is a bar there. Can't quite see the name on the screen, but it does say happy hour. And as you can see, a portion of that bar or a building nearby is up in flames at this point. We are going to keep an eye on this situation and bring you all of the details. But here is what we know so far, as we know that protesters have blocked roads, lit blazes, and were met with tear gas in Paris and elsewhere in France, as there's heaping pressure on the president, Emmanuel Macron, and making the new prime minister's first day in office, some would say, a baptism of fire. The government's Interior Ministry announcing 250 arrests in the first hours of what was a planned day of nationwide demonstrations against Macron, budget cuts, and other complaints there in general. The government's Interior Ministry announcing those arrests, and although falling short of its self-declared intention to quote-unquote block everything, the protest movement that started online over the summer caused widespread hotspots of disruption, defying an exceptional deployment of about 80,000 police who broke up barricades and made a lot of arrests. The Interior Minister said that a bus was set on fire in the western city there, and in the southwest, fire damage to electrical cables stopped train services on one line and disrupted traffic on another. That's according to government transport authorities. Again, you're looking at a live image here coming in out of France. As you can see, what appears to be a building set on fire. Dozens of police officers are there as the protesters remain on the scene here. And this is part of a day of nationwide protests. So sadly, it's likely that we will see more buildings, vehicles, and things of that nature set on fire as the day continues. We'll keep you updated here on Live Now from Fox.
Absolutely wild. Now, I will say this. I will never, ever agree with any kind of violence, political violence, any kind of like rioting where you destroy property. Like when you're protesting and you start destroying things, you just become criminals. Your point becomes mute. Like that's my opinion. You might feel differently, but that is my opinion. If you're going to protest, peacefully protest. Don't cause any violence. Don't start setting stuff on fire. Don't start looting places. Don't any of that. None of that. Because it just, if you're fighting for a good cause or you're protesting for a good cause, it sullies the name of the cause that you're fighting for. Sullies the name of the cause that you're fighting for. But let's go over into this next video and get a little more. Going block everything. So tear gas. I'm assuming it's tear gas. I think that's the building that got caught on fire over there. One of these. Absolutely correct. What? Setting stuff on fire. Absolutely great. Absolutely crazy, y'all. Let's get over into this article. Let's get over into this article. As you can see, let me zoom in a tad bit. So you can see PBS, nationwide protests in France turn new prime minister's first day into chaos. A day of anti-government action across France on Wednesday saw streets choked with smoke, barricades in flames, volleys of tear gas as protesters denounced budget cuts and political turmoil. The nationwide Block Everything campaign presented a challenge to the president Emmanuel and turned Sebastian. I can't look. See, I'm not good with names. Y'all know that. First day as prime minister into a baptism of fire. Although falling short of its self-declared intentions of total disruption, the protest still managed to paralyze part of daily life and ignite hundreds of hotspots across the country. The deployment of 80,000 police officers broke up barricades and dragged hundreds of protesters into custody. Yet flashpoints multiplied. So they talked about this in that first video we looked at. A bus was torched. You had in the Southwest, electrical cables were severed, halting trains. Nearly 2,000 people had taken to the streets nationwide, while CGT Union, one of France's largest labor confederations, claimed closer to 250,000. His ministry reported more than 450 arrests, hundreds held in custody, over a dozen officers injured, and more than 800 protest actions, from rallies to the street fires across the country. Called the day a defeat for those who wanted to block the country. Excuse me. Yet the government own tally told a different story. The Block Everything protest did not match the scale of France's 2018 Yellow Vest riot, but still underscored the cycle of unrest that dodged Macron's presidency. Mass deployments, bursts of violence, and repeated clashes between government and streets. After his re-election in 2022, he faced a firestorm of anger over unpopular pension reforms and nationwide unrest and rioting in 2023 after deadly police shooting of a teenager on Paris outskirts. Groups of protesters who repeatedly tried to block Paris beltways during the morning rush hour were dispersed by police using tear gas. Elsewhere in the capital, protesters piled up trash cans and hurled objects at police officers. Firefighters were called out to the fire at a restaurant in downtown Chalut neighborhood. Chalette, so I'm not good with names, where thousands of protesters were gathered peacefully. Roadblocks, traffic slowdowns, and other protests were widely spread. Wow, afternoon gathering of thousands of people in central Paris were peaceful and good humored. A wary nation, the French prolonged cycle of political instability with the Macron's minority governments lurching from crisis to crisis has fueled widespread discontent. Paris protesters, Vega, a nurse in a public hospital union delegate, said anger that fueled the yellow vest protest never went away, and that she wants to defend France's public service from privatization. Absolutely crazy. We're not gonna read all this article, but I feel like we got the gist of it. Seems that people are upset about what's happening with their political climate and what's happening in France with everything that's happening, policy wise, pension cuts, anything like that, and it's causing them to want to protest. Now, like I said before, I agree with peaceful protest. But I don't think when you start turning it into violence, you start setting things on fire, vandalizing, looting, stuff like that, you take away from the message. You take away from what you was trying to fight for in the beginning, your protest for in the beginning. Same thing that happened with George Floyd when there was riots and riots. There was some peaceful protesting, of course, but then you had some people who were rioting and looting, and that just sullies the name of what they're fighting for in the beginning. But that happens. It happens everywhere, y'all. It happens everywhere, not just in the United States. It happens in France as well. So, well, we got to review the world together, and we have to keep an eye on this stuff. But let me know your thoughts. Tell me if I'm saying something wrong about the France or if I'm misunderstanding the situation. Do you think that violence has a place in protests? Some types of violence, any property damage and stuff like that? Or are you like me and think that if you're trying to protest something, the best way to do it is peacefully? At least that's my thinking. All right, everybody. Remember, this is AC Reviews the Word. Remember to like and subscribe.